It is now my pleasure to introduce Andrea Hanley, who is the Vice President of Driver Training and Education with Troops into Transportation. Andrea?
Excellent. Thank you so much, Eric. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I'm really excited to begin this segment. As Eric mentioned, I'm the Senior Vice President of Admissions and Enrollment at Troops into Transportation. We are part of the CDL schools in TransForce's Education and Training Division. Working with the military community is something that runs deep in both our company as to me personally. Over 50 years ago, my father exited the military, served in Vietnam. He didn't have a job waiting for him when he got out. He didn't know what to do, but he had to make a living for his soon-to-be family. So he learned how to drive a truck. He delivered beer throughout the Northeast for his first year out of the military. It's that simple, right? Well, not always. We've learned a lot. We've learned a lot over the last 50 years. We've also learned a lot in recent years and how to do better. And we've recognized ways that companies like yourself can find opportunities to hire this unique group of talent. So let's kick it off to the next slide here. To begin, I want to share some interesting statistics. This was from a survey that was conducted on a group of military that was both 1 year before their transition out and 1 year following their transition out of the military. And of those surveyed, it was clear the most common problem that they were facing wasn't unique to what branch they served in or their rank or what their job was in the military. 86% just weren't sure what they wanted to do. And of those that had already exited, 7 out of 10 had gone 1 month or longer without a paycheck. And about half of that group went 3 months or longer. And that is way too much uncertainty and a gap of employment and pay that many of us couldn't afford. So to top it off, even female veterans had an even greater challenge than their male counterparts. All right, so next slide here. I want to be able to show that the challenges aren't just for the military community, it's also for you and us as employers. So let's talk about that, what you might face, and we'll start with time and money, those types of resources. We know that military personnel is all over the world, and of the bases here in the US, they're going to reside, relocate in nearly every zip code. So how do you reach everyone, everywhere at the right time? And then when are they ready to go to work? As Eric had mentioned, there's different timelines based on where they're at in their military transition. So how can you match with a candidate today that will be ready for the job you have open today, and so on and so on. We also know that many are willing to relocate. So from personal experience, when we've worked with populations out in Hawaii and Schofield Barracks or out in J-Bear in Alaska, we're not too concerned with where they want to live when they get out, because we know more than 80% of them are going to be somewhere within the 48 states. So we'll talk about those challenges. On that next slide, what I'd like to do is just set up a few techniques, steps, resources, very much like what you're going to see in that guidebook that Eric had mentioned. Ultimately, our goal today is for you guys to understand how can you get more of these candidates in your doors, or I gotta say it, I gotta say the pun, in the driver's seat. We all have our trucking transportation humor, but listen, this is about being both military friendly and ready. So let's look at the first item here on the next slide. What I'd like you all to understand is, how can we help these very talented men and women translate their skills? We need to show our understanding or find a way to speak the same language. For example, an artillery officer, someone that may have had experience in managing inventory, budgets, teams of 20 people. An Army engineer, excellent at project management, right? But they may have challenges communicating that to you. You might want to get a cheat sheet, some tool to understand their job specialties. I see you did this. I understand that would match very well with what we have to offer. I see you've done this type of military education and training, etc. So learn what those tools are, whether it's reading their 214, reading their record of what they've done in the military, and knowing some of these acronyms that even I'm probably guilty of using, not realizing some of us on the meeting today may need to look up what some of them mean. But ultimately, our goal here in learning how to speak the language, especially with what I call your first responders, is avoid adding extra obstacles or requirements that could be misinterpreted, where if I'm that candidate, I might discount myself and say, "Ooh, I don't have that skill." We want to find more ways to help you and all of us solve this shortage and find more ways to say yes, at least get them to apply. Partnering with TransForce, hiring our heroes, Fastport, 10th Street, other private public agencies, that's going to be your best bet. And again, the guide that you'll be getting post event today. Let's go on to the next slide. I have an example here. This has been an interesting one that I've learned over the years. You know, different definitions of what clean means when you're referring to a clean driver's license or clean background for that matter. I've had service members take themselves out of consideration because they had a non-moving violation, minor suspension from when they lapsed in a license due to relocating. So does that mean their license isn't clean? Right? There's always a little bit more to that. So by using terminology, you might actually be knocking out some candidates who may otherwise qualify. We also know that some military have service-connected disability, minor, major, but it prevented them from doing the job they had in the military. So you might not be looking for drivers jumping out of planes, parachutes like they did in the military. They will likely be able to pass that DOT physical and operate an 80,000-pound vehicle or tarp a load. But by stressing physical demands that could be misinterpreted, using softer language that is on the right side, military encouraged to apply, then learning how to have those conversations where they can disclose some of those things. And you can support them in saying, that sounds like you'll be okay to get a DOT physical. Thank you for still moving forward. We don't want to count anybody out. Let's go to the next slide. Military, and frankly, all of us, we like predictability, we like clarity, but them especially, they are accustomed to that. So detail your application process or your hiring process. If it might not be clear to them and they don't know what to expect, they may move on to another opportunity because they're so sought after. So detail those how-tos, timing. If your company is willing to take on new CDL holders, highlight that. Recent CDL graduates, welcome to apply. No experience required. We'll consider the right candidate. So soften some of that language if you have a page or a link, which I'll get into on the next page, that will encourage them to visit that particular landing page. Also be open. How's your current hiring and screening process working? Good, not so good? Many of these candidates are not coming from desk-based positions or office roles like some of us are more accustomed to. So picking up the phone, giving that phone call, or sending a text message can go a long way. Sometimes people think if they missed a call, it's on them, they're out of the hunt, shame on them. No, try them back. Be encouraging with the communication. And finally, let me share that a lot of these candidates really value the big picture. So outline not just the immediate opportunity that you're looking to fill, but other ways they can advance. They're accustomed to that. Usually every 2 to 3 years, they're eligible for various promotions or new assignments. So you should be ready to do the same, whether it's pay incentives or new positions within your company. All right, let's go to our next slide, please. First impressions help, right? So, with our guide, that's what we really wanted to show to all of you is, we've found ways to honor the military affiliation, whether we're talking about spouse, various branches, or the actual military veterans themselves that served. So there's ways that you can honor their affiliation as they are a driver or perhaps fill other roles in your company. So we'll give you some considerations that are here on this slide to consider, whether it be on your company website, social media pages, or I've got a really cool example in the next slide. Let's just hop right to it. I'm a visual person. Let's look at some of this collateral. Example of a carrier. Many of our graduates have found great opportunities with these guys, TMC. They're one of the largest flatbed haulers. And you can see they've registered with partnering agencies. They've got the little logos there that show whether it's for military veterans or spouses, top 10, gold level. It means something, and it at least shows they're trying to speak that language. They want to hire more military talent. In fact, you can also see they highlight more than a third of their driver pool are military veterans. They have drop downs that are probably information similar to other drop downs, but it shouts military veterans, click here, you have a place with us. Other examples that you can also see here on this slide. And let's go to the next one here. Ways that you can support them once they begin working for you that are low cost. Whether it is seeking new drivers that are fresh out of CDL programs and offering certain incentive-based pay, tuition reimbursement, or free resources like having them be a registered apprentice. Setting up an apprenticeship, as you'll learn in some future presenters with me today, is pretty easy to do. And there are intermediaries that will help you do that. So you'll learn why that might be important to the military community in just a bit. There's other examples, right? Your benefits, you need to be able to translate so that they see the total value of what you can offer them. All right, let's go to the next slide. This could be my favorite. Military veterans love to help their own. In fact, a recent graduate shared with me that his employer honored him in becoming a veteran mentor. And I thought, driver trainer. And he said, no, veteran mentor. And I said, well, what's a veteran mentor? Well, he was given a magnet, special logo, placed on the door of his truck. It identified his branch of service. He goes to other places, right? They talk, they identify, they have a feeling of belonging out there on the job sites. He also shared with me that he runs and sometimes leads a special group on a social media platform where they check in with each other, drivers for that company that are military affiliated. It's a resource. It's also a way to make your experienced drivers. I believe he's been with this company over 3 years now. He feels like he has a purpose now to that identity of himself. He's not just a truck driver. He's now a veteran mentor. And that really meant a lot to him. And we can take a look at LinkedIn, right? We can see women in trucking. We can see there's various groups to support various communities. Okay, let's go to my next slide. And I believe I'm rounding up here. Nowhere to be. Showing up today is a great step. Being able to get connected with either local events or national virtual ones like this one is going to help you get your message out and learn more. We'll learn from each other. Everybody on this call today, I've collaborated with in some way, shape, or form. If it comes to trucking, you name it, we've worked together most likely. So you can share ideas on how to attract and recruit and retain this really talented group. Okay, next slide here. Listing it out, leveraging these types of connections, please connect with us. We want you to be able to offer what the military community is seeking. It's not a one size fits all. So highlight what gives you the advantage or what might make you unique and making that really, really solid match with a candidate.